Welcome back to another episode of the Rossetti and Stewart Podcast. He's Antonio Rossetti. I'm Justin Stewart. We're coming from you from the Pittsburgh Media Hub here in downtown Pittsburgh. You can find our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search the Rossetti and Stewart Podcast. Antonio, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Just chilling. Really didn't do much last night. Didn't have any games to cover or anything. So, and I was also off my other job too. So I kind of worked out, and then I took it easy. So yeah, how about you?
School's kicking me in the butt, but I mean it's the last semester. I have the internship too, so I've just been like really busy and just not really had a lot of time to do things that I actually need to do during the week. So. But otherwise, it's just temporary. You have to remind myself of that. It's not forever. So just have to get through it the best I can. And honestly, yeah, shout out to Montour boys basketball. They were on TV yesterday and they won. So I figured you'd be there covering the game.
Oh, yeah, I was not. It was 47-37, I believe. Yeah. Luke was there.
I figured one of you guys would be there.
He probably only stayed for the half, though, and left and ate with his friends. But
no, I respect that. It's high school, man. I did that back in the day, too, so... But I'm kind of dating myself there, though. But, this week, a lot's happened in the world of sports. We have the Super Bowl this Sunday. The NBA trade deadline just happened. A lot of crazy stuff went down there. Reporters, misquoting information. What's new about that? And then, also, too, we have hockey news, too. So, without further ado, I guess we can dive right into our new segment we introduced not too long ago called Quick Hitters. And Antonio, I guess you can start. Like, what do you have on the dock as far as quick hitters go?
Yeah, so I have just two short ones. I do want to talk about the All-Star game last week. I don't really care about the winner, who won, what division won and stuff like that. I just want to talk about Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin. They absolutely were phenomenal. Crosby assisted Ovechkin's goal, and Ovechkin assisted both of Crosby's goal. They both had 3 points. 3 points out of their teams. They had half their team's goals, and they had absolutely dominated. They lost their game, but they absolutely dominated when they were out there. And it was just cool to see. Seeing two rivals it's one of those things where it's bitter rivals, and then when you're in the league for 10 years, then you're like, oh, okay, this guy's actually cool and stuff. And now they're at the end of their career, and it's pretty cool to see. But even though I'm saying that they're at the end of their career, they still have a lot in the tank. They're both still top 10 players. They're both still top in the league in points. Obviously, McDavid, Draisaitl, Pastrnak, those are your top 3 right now. But if you look at their production, they really haven't cooled off at all. And Crosby could hypothetically score 100 points. He's on pace for it. Ovechkin can hypothetically score anywhere between 40 to 50 goals. It's awesome to see these players just adapt to this game, because when they got to the league, it was a dead puck era, and they're still producing, and they proved in the All-Star game, even though it's just an All-Star game, no one's really trying. They still were the stars of the show, which was funny to see. Yeah, but my other quick hitter is the Penguins against the Anaheim Ducks. Had their most shots in a road game with 59 last night. And they won 6-3. So it was probably the Penguins' best offensive performance I've seen in a while. It was good to see, and I think that's just what happens when you rest an old team like that. Because, all of a sudden, everyone's rested and stuff like that, and everyone looked good, So Pierre-Olivier Joseph, shout out, 2 goals and assists, first star of the game. That dude needs to have more minutes. He should be on the power play, not Jeff Petrie. When Letang's out, just POJ is going to be a legit defenseman in the league. And he, leads the team in plus minus. Just an overall solid player. Give POJ more time. Dude's a beast.
Fair enough. My quick hitter is going to be a little bit more different. It's a little bit more serious. Not too serious, though, but if you guys have been on Twitter or any social media, there was just this rumor going out about Deontay Johnson, Steelers wide receiver, punching Steelers quarterback Mitch Trubisky during the season, and then it led to him losing his job. And it just here's the problem I have with like insiders, reporters. This actually was a radio host, Andrew Filipponi, and I know he gets a lot of flack for being like outlandish with his takes, but I actually respect the heck out of the guy. I think he does a lot of good things. I think he clearly preps for his show, like he knows what he's talking about. But at the same time, it's that radio personality. You're trying to have like shock value. So just based off reading this article on Steelers Depot, it just seems like he just mischaracterized like the altercation and like was just telling like just people about it. And it's just like, dude, these guys kill me with their sources. Like if you want the real answer, go to the player directly and ask him the question. Like these guys talking about, oh well, this source told me X, Y, and Z. For all you know, your source could be pretty trash. And I think this source, whoever told him that Deontay Johnson punched Mitch Trubisky, first of all, the notion of that sounds ridiculous. And second of all, if that actually happened, I don't think he'd be on the Steelers. I think he would have been gotten cut, honestly. So it's just like stuff like that. Like you see a lot of it on Twitter, and like this is a bigger issue. Forget the whole Deontay punching Mitch. It's just you see it on Twitter a lot with these guys that have like 2 followers and 500 followers saying that they're like legit insiders and they have all these sources. And like a lot of the times it just comes across as they're just making up stuff. And, when you do that, you just really damage the credibility of the media, like sports and just professional media as a whole. And, the media already gets enough flack for, good reason. I'm not going to lie. But it's just not, we don't need to add fuel to the fire, honestly. Like, athletes already don't like the media as it is. And, like, when you throw lies like that out there, it just doesn't help matters. So that's my quick hitter for the week.
Yeah, the biggest issue is a lot of people think, sport first, person second. And it should be the opposite way around. I remember we might be having a month and J.R. Jackson said, hey, I always want to ask, like, how their week's going. Or what are they doing on a Saturday when they're off from their sports? Are they going to that yard sale? Are they doing this? Are you doing that? That's how I always approach it, too. I've said before on the podcast, I played high school sports. I played baseball for 2 years. I stopped after 2 years to pursue musical because I like music too. But at the same time, the 2 years I played, it's literally 5 days a week. And the last thing, and you're literally grinding away at it. And if you don't, get a ton of playing time, or if you don't have a good game, the last thing you want to hear is someone like running your name in the dirt. Or someone walking up to you and talking about the game rather than, yourself. Or you know what I mean? Like, not even asking how you're doing and stuff like that. I think that's just a big problem with the media is they don't care about the player. Like, they say, oh, this guy sucks. He does not suck. Listen, I've seen a 90-mile-per-hour fastball. I sure as hell would not be able to hit that consistently. I respect the hell of what all these players do, and it's just annoying to see that people in the media make up these things or say a player sucks or says a player doesn't have work ethic. Listen, you could judge them on how they play. You could say, hey, for what he can do, he underproduced. That's a fair statement for many players. Josh Jackson, like, you could say, like, oh, I knew he had a lot of potential, but I feel like he didn't live out his potential. Or like a Marvin Bagley or like a Jabari Parker, stuff like that. That's fair, but they're still great players. They're still great athletes. And, to say the thing about, but this is something different too. This is Deontay Johnson and Mitch Trubisky. It's not even true. That's the thing. And it's just like, it felt like almost like, I don't know. It just, like you said, shock value. People want the shock value nowadays, and your true sports fans don't really want that. I'm not going to tune in to Andrew Filipponi to listen to him talk about a fake story. And also, I'm not going to tune in to hear about, even if it did happen, I'm not going to tune in and listen to that. I'm going to be watching something else that's in season right now. Or I'm going to be paying attention to the NFL draft. I just think it's just silly.
No, it is. And, quite frankly, like, Matt Barnes said it best. He's from All the Smoke podcast. Controversy sells, and the media loves controversy. And, this isn't like, everyone isn't like this. It's just like a very select group of people that, like, they just like controversy for whatever reason, rather than just telling the straight facts and the story of the matter. And, some of the best journalists you see, like Stephen A. Smith, well, I know he has his detractors as well sometimes. Like, he's built a lot of solid relationships with athletes over the years, and that's not by accident. Like, I think he's, for the most part, he's going to criticize you if you're not playing well. But, I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to criticize players if they're not playing well. If you're just calling it like it is, you're calling it like it is. But there's a fine line. And even sometimes I think I cross this sometimes on the podcast. But, I'm trying to get better at that. Just outright saying guys suck and, not in understanding, the gravity of what you're saying, has merit. And, these are real people. You're telling them they suck at their job. It just really, if you really put it that way, it just – kind of changes the tune of how I view athletes nowadays. And, we just have I think as journalists, you have a responsibility just to tell like it is. And once you start getting personal, that's where you lose me there. And, this was very personal. This wasn't about football. And, there's just, you can literally ruin the media. Since we talk about the media being all powerful, you can literally ruin people's reputations based off rumors and confidential sources. I mean, we just saw it with Mason Rudolph a couple years ago with Myles Garrett. I mean, that dude, he could have been canceled, could have been cut, and never got another opportunity to get in the NFL just because of hearsay. So I just think insiders, journalists, talk show hosts who have quote unquote sources, I think you really need to vet out your sources before you make claims like that. So I'll just leave it at that. If you have anything else to add, I mean, we can just move on.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to add, honestly.
That's fine. So I guess we can move right along. We can probably start off talking about the NBA trade deadline, and there was a lot that happened. Honestly, more than I thought. Coming into this week, honestly, pretty much Kyrie Irving was the big domino, the first domino to really fall. Brooklyn, Kevin Durant got that injury about a month or so ago. They were playing really well. They were kind of treading water with Kyrie here. And then last week, I think it was last Saturday, I believe, it came out that Kyrie had wanted to be traded. And, I remember thinking, you can't be serious. And, I have my issues with Kyrie, but it's just more so that's personal and that's his business. But, I'm not going to get into that. But, the player, we all know what he is. He can give you 30 a night. Very good ball handler, probably the best we have in the game. Probably top 10 all time, honestly, if we're going to be real about it. He goes to Dallas, him and
Markieff Morris.
Markieff Morris, too. Shout out Markieff Morris, too. Didn't forget about you, bud. I know the media forgot about you, too. But, they got him.
Nikola Jokic didn't.
Nikola Jokic. No, he certainly didn't forget. They got him, and then for exchange, they got Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and I think they got one other guy, too.
No, they got a first rounder and 2 second rounds.
Okay, so it was just Finney-Smith and Dinwiddie. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Nets, we'll get into it after that, but the Nets are pretty much, kind of rebuild mode now. And then Dallas, they have a dynamic duo now with Luka and Kyrie. And I've said this before on the podcast, give Luka a second all-star. Doesn't have to be a superstar player, just have to be a star or an all-star. And, Dallas can do some serious damage. And here we are. So what do you take away from that trade?
Oh, I mean, I think the writing's on the wall for the Nets. They're going for a new look, new everything. The whole KD and Kyrie Irving thing didn't go as planned at all, to say the least.
Oh, you're being kind.
Yeah, maybe the Knicks did the right thing by not heavily pursuing them and stuff. Remember, everyone was giving them slack for signing Julius Randle over players like them, and now it's Julius Randle is
2-time All-Star.
He's there, 2-time All-Star. You could say whatever you want about his last season. It was still a good year last year. He had a great 2021. Had a great year this year too. So, just my quick little take on that. And but yeah, this obviously helps the Mavericks a ton. It gives them their guy they need with Luka. And plus, you get rid of Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith and stuff, but they still have depth. I mean, Josh Green has been lighting it up lately. I mean, you still have, you still have a solid team. Tim Hardaway Jr., Dwight Powell.
Yeah.
You got some depth on the team. Do they have Reggie Bullock still too?
I don't think.
I think he got dealt. I think he got dealt. But still, I still think that they have a lot of depth on their team. But honestly, when you have Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, that's really all you need. And they have Bullock too. Because
he's still
because I was watching the game the other night. He and Josh Green were just shooting the lights out in Kyrie Irving's debut game. So it's just honestly, how they played against the Clippers. with just Kyrie Irving and without Luka Doncic, they look like a playoff team. Now you have Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. I think it's going to be a scary little duo there. I'd say they have a shot at the West, but then the Suns made those moves. We could get into that, and I still think the Nuggets are going to be a tough team to beat. But I think playoff Luka, you saw what they did to the Suns last year. You can't count them out.
No, I think with Dallas, that's the first thing you heard when the trade. Oh, they're going to be very bad defensively. Well, I mean, I understand that, but you have to understand the NBA. It's more of an offensive league now. I mean, the best defense in the NBA is the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they're allowing over 106 points a game. So, that tells you where the NBA is headed. It's an offensive first league, and Dallas has two of those guys that can get you 30, 40 points a night. And they have shooters, too. I know they can't create their own shots as well, and that's why Luka was shouldering a lot of the load. But that's just the reality. And you add Kyrie Irving, he's going to take off the scoring load, so Luka can be more of a point guard and facilitator if he wanted to, while still offering the scoring aspect of his game. But yeah, I see this as a win-win for Dallas. Long term, though, I'm not sure. That's a bit of a concern because we've seen Kyrie at this point. He's a bit of a journeyman now. Boston, Brooklyn. We've seen it now, and that's a little bit concerning. But I think as far as this year goes, I think it was a gamble that had to be taken. And, I think Dallas, they're going to be dangerous. And then we can just move on to the next big one.
Well, let's go to the Suns since we're already talking about it, and the Nets too. But, yeah, the Suns are now, I think they could easily take the West now.
Yeah, I think they have to be title favorites.
Because not only that they get Kevin Durant, but it's the homecoming for T.J. Warren.
I forgot about T.J. Warren.
Yeah, but they got both players out of it. I mean, that replaces some of the depth after losing Mikal Bridges. So, but yeah, they gave up Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, Jay Crowder, 4 first-round picks, and a 2028 pick swap. So, the Nets get a lot out of this. I mean, you get 4 first-round picks, and then you also get I'll talk about the Nets a little bit later, but getting Kevin Durant with another wing shooter like Devin Booker, and you have Chris Paul to facilitate that, and you still have DeAndre Ayton. They're honestly when they're fully healthy, when Durant's fully healthy, that's going to be the team to beat, because I know they're not doing the best as they usually do, but they're like, hey, my window's closing. It's rather we win now or we win never, and that's true because Chris Paul. He's having a great season, honestly. And then you have Devin Booker, injury problems. DeAndre Ayton, just who knows if he loves it in Phoenix, especially knowing he was going to go to the Pacers. It's win now. It's win now because those 3 players, you don't know if they're going to stay put forever. They get Kevin Durant, they make their move. And plus, there's 4 first-round picks. Sometimes you have to trade picks to win championships. That's why the Penguins won back-to-back. I mean, the Lightning, that's why they won back-to-back championships. I know that's hockey, but still, sometimes you need the trade to get the big guy, but sometimes you also, it's high risk, high reward. Sometimes those picks don't. And, for example, the Minnesota Timberwolves this year, they traded all those picks for Rudy Gobert, and who knows if it's going to work out. But for the Cavs, it could work out for them in the future, because they have Mitchell locked up now, and they traded their first-round picks. But, yeah, it's high risk, high reward. See what you can do. But I think this high risk might be high reward because I think they just jumped to favorites, in my opinion, in the West.
No, that's a fair point. And you mentioned that Phoenix kind of isn't having the year that they've had in past the couple of years. But, I mean, if you look at I'm just going to pull up their game logs so far this year. When Devin Booker was playing, so hold on a sec. At one point, they were 16-7 to start the season, 19-12, and then he got hurt. Chris Paul's been in and out of the lineup this year. Pretty much every major piece of their championship team that was still Cameron Johnson too. I mean, really the guy that was playing consistently was Mikal Bridges, and they just traded him. So every guy pretty much on Phoenix has been battling injuries. So that's why their record isn't as good as it probably should be, but at the same time, Devin Booker just came back. Chris Paul's been playing regularly now. You get Kevin Durant. He's probably not going to play right away, but he should be back probably after the All-Star break, I imagine. And, like, if everything goes according to plan, like this, on paper, it's definitely, I think, the best team in the West. I mean, you have a point guard, a generational, all-time great point guard. You have a big man that can get you 20 and 10 when he's consistent. You have two guys that can score you 40 any night, given night, pretty much, Booker and Durant. So they're going to be tough to beat. And, I think Dallas, you mentioned Denver as well. I'm even going to throw Memphis in there, even though I know they're really struggling now. They're not playing really good basketball at all. Then Denver, I think those are the four best teams in the West right now as we speak. So,
yeah, and I do want to add one more thing too. Oh, and Memphis too. Did you say Memphis too?
I said Memphis.
Yeah, you can't count out Memphis because they still have their core together, but they didn't make as many moves as I thought they were going to make. But I do want to talk about the Brooklyn Nets. I think they did a good job. I think getting Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson. I mean, you got Jay Crowder too, but they traded him to the Bucks for picks. But you're now loaded on picks for the next 4 to 5 years, even over that until 2029. They're absolutely loaded on picks. But I still think that the team they have on the floor right now isn't that bad. I mean, you have Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson. Those are two guys that are going to give you 15 to 20 points a game. You get Spencer Dinwiddie, a solid, legitimate point guard, and whenever he's a top option, you saw him in Brooklyn. I mean, he could put up 20 points a night. Dorian Finney-Smith, good two-way player, got him out of it. I know these players aren't Kevin Durant. I know these players aren't Kyrie Irving. But you're taking in at least decent players out of it. But on top of that, you're getting all these picks as well. So I just think that the Nets, yes, they may have I said last week that they're just a piece away. They should just keep it together. But, I mean, I think they did a good job considering how quickly Kyrie requested his trade and stuff like that. Like, usually the asking price goes way down. Like Andre Drummond from the Pistons, when he was sitting out those games, he was traded for John Henson and Brandon Knight. I mean, so it's just like small examples like that. Brandon Knight, though, if he was fully healthy Brandon Knight, it would have been different. But that's a whole completely other story. We can have a whole podcast on Brandon Knight and how underrated he is. But, yeah, that's just my thoughts on Brooklyn. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned those guys. I mean, they have Dinwiddie too. I mean, Joe Harris, Patty Mills, Royce O'Neal. I mean, Ben Simmons, I guess.
Cam Thomas too.
That's what I was going to say. Cam Thomas. What's been lost in the whole trade, Cam Thomas has been playing really well after they both got traded.
And Claxton, too.
So, I mean, Brooklyn, look, they remind me of kind of the team that had D'Angelo Russell and Dinwiddie early when they made the playoffs. Like, they're not going to, like, overpower you. They're not going to be a championship team this year, but they're going to be solid. They're going to play hard, and they're going to be scrappy. And I still think they can make the playoffs this year.
I still think they will. I mean, they're still fourth, fifth.
They're top 5 seed now. I do expect them to slide up a little bit, but I mean, not drastically to the point where they're out. I think they've won enough games now where, at the worst, they're going to be a playing team, and even then, I think they might be. If they can just tread water, I think they can avoid the play-in as long as they stay 500. Honestly,
but I actually think that they're better now than they were last week. Because here, I'll tell you why.
Okay. Because
Kevin Durant has been out.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And they were staying afloat without Kevin Durant. Yeah. So if you're staying afloat with just Kyrie Irving, it's practically like you're replacing a team that was in 4th or 5th place. You're replacing Kyrie Irving with those 4 players we mentioned. And you still have Claxton and Cam Thomas, who have been playing incredible right now.
No,
so
that's fair.
I still think they're going to make the playoffs this year. Like you said, they're now no longer going to be able to match up with, the teams like Milwaukee and Boston. But at the same time, like, you can never count out a team completely because you never know what can happen in the playoffs. I'm just
thinking about the lower half of the Eastern Conference, and I think they're better than at least 3 of those 4 teams. Honestly,
like they're better than the Wizards. They're better than.
Oh gosh, I even think they're better than the Hawks right now. I mean, the Hawks they've kind of been disappointing this year for a variety of reasons. But I will say this real quickly about Brooklyn. We mentioned when they got the KG and Paul Pierce trade. Like, that left them desolate for assets after it, and we saw those turned into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and so that was a really bad trade looking back. Not because of like who they got, but it was just they got them too late in their they were past their primes. And, that left them desolate. They had little to no talent. And it was just a struggle there for 3 or 4 years. They were pretty much a joke. But now you lose those kind of guys, and you think, oh, well, it's a crushing blow. And it's definitely still a blow to some extent, but they come out of this little era of superstars they've had a lot in much better position to do damage in the future. And, they have talent too, and they have draft picks. So Brooklyn, I know no one's going to talk about them now because they don't have any stars, but I'm going to be curious to see how they do from here on out, because they can do some damage real quick here. So.
Yeah, they're just trying to reverse their fortunes of what happened. But I also got to give Boston credit too, because if you think about, especially Jaylen Brown, he was taken 5th. But if you look at the and Jaylen Brown, I knew that was a good pick after watching him play at Cal, despite losing in the first round against Hawaii. But if you look at the Jason Tatum pick, look at the picks before. You had Markelle Fultz, Lonzo Ball, Lonzo Ball.
Wasn't Tatum 3rd?
No, Josh Jackson was. Then it was Jason Tatum.
You dropped to 4th?
Jason Tatum was 4th, I thought. 2017 draft?
I thought he's 3rd. I'm going to look real quick, but I thought he was 3rd.
No, Josh Jackson, or he may have been 3rd. But still, regardless, if it's Fultz, and then you got Fultz and then Ball, and then
he was 3rd, by the way.
Yeah, Fultz, Ball, Tatum, and then Josh Jackson after that. What if they would have taken Josh Jackson instead or something like that? Or what if one of those two teams before take Jason Tatum? Honestly.
I think your point would have been correct, but I hate doing that because, you don't know how Jason Tatum would have been in with the Lakers or the 70s. He could have been a bust. Probably not. He probably would have still been really good, though. But, I think scenarios help, and, where you are helps, too, to some extent. I'm not completely, but I don't know. It's just one of those things. Lonzo Ball, he has a degenerative knee issue, and before that, he was actually starting to finally find his footing in the NBA. Even Markelle Fultz, I'm not saying he's a great player, but every once in a while he can give you a solid game, and obviously you'd rather have Jason Tatum. I'm not even gonna argue that. I'm not even gonna try to argue that, but it's just one of those things. No one, well, maybe not no one, but you just don't know with some of these players how good they're gonna be in the NBA, and I think. Obviously the Sixers and Lakers, they would probably want those picks back, but, that's just the reality of sports. You're going to hit or miss on prospects, and they definitely missed on the prospect.
I agree with that, too, with the whole hit or miss. You never know. Markelle Fultz averaged 20 points in college, but I do think that he would have been better if he didn't get hurt and stuff. The only thing I disagree with is, the getting drafted into a scenario. Yes, you could get drafted into different scenarios, but if you got that dog in you, you rise. And Jason Tatum, it doesn't matter what team he would have got drafted to. I think he would have been one of the best players in that draft, regardless, because he was great at Duke, great for the Celtics and stuff. I think if you flip Lonzo Ball and Jason Tatum, they produce the same for what they were given. That's just my only opinion. I just think at the end of the day, yes, your system can help. Look at Kawhi Leonard, how he developed and stuff like that. But I also think that it's more of the player too. But I do agree to your point where it's, you hit or miss on players. That's just what it is. You could have, the stats in college and stuff like that, but then you come into the NBA and it's just what happened and stuff like that. But, yeah. So that's just my take on it.
No, I would say I think development's important though. I think that does have a factor.
It's definitely important.
No, but I'm not saying it's the end all be all. I'm just saying it's just location matters, and out of those 3 teams, Boston was the most stable out of all of them. And I'm not saying that's still Jason Tatum. It's probably more so him than what they developed, trying to develop him there. I understand that, but I just believe sometimes where maybe I'm misguided in that thought. Maybe it's more so NFL. I think that made more sense in football, honestly, than the basketball. But I don't know. The point is Jason Tatum, is a great player, and clearly the best player in that draft, really not even close. So,
well, basketball is different than any other sport because you got 5 players on the court at once, and in hockey, you have 5 players, but you have a whole team and stuff like that. This is going to lead into another point so if you look at the big trades in hockey, Vladimir Tarasenko was just traded for a first-round pick. One player that plays from the Rangers, a bottom-end prospect, and just stuff like that. It just, you get a star for not as much as you do in the NBA. Meanwhile, NBA, you see multiple first-round picks taken. So, I mean, I will also add that the Penguins had the assets to get Vladimir Tarasenko, but they decided not to. But they'll make trades for Jeff Petrie and stuff like that, which Petrie, cool guy, but, I mean, let's get real. Vladimir Tarasenko, like, why not trade for someone like him? But that's just a whole different story. That's a Ron Hextall thing. We could have a whole podcast about that. But what was I saying? Oh yeah. So I was just saying, like, NBA, you have to give up a lot for these stars, because if you get a LeBron on your team, you automatically have a chance at the playoffs, stuff like that. Meanwhile, in hockey or in football, the system is very important. That's what was also part of my point, because, like, if you get drafted into the wrong system in the NFL, like if you're a wide receiver, let's say even like a Laquan Treadwell or someone like that, like I think they could have had a lot of good time in the league, but they just didn't get drafted to the right team, stuff like that. You see it all the time happen in the NFL. Like even N'Keal Harry too. I think he could have progressed if he wasn't put into like certain systems and stuff like that. But yeah, my point is that you only need obviously you need a full team in the NBA to win, but one guy makes a big difference. One guy in the NHL, if the Penguins were to just trade for one star, I still don't think that they'd be, the favorites to win the cup. But if the Nets trade for a star, now all of a sudden they're one of the best teams. My point is just, you're going to see a star out there, 30, I'd say 33 to 38 minutes, or no, even more. I'd say like 35 to 40 minutes every single night. I was thinking college numbers. 35 to 40 minutes every single night. Hockey, you're only going to see a player not even a third of the time out there. So, and football too, like, player on offense doesn't play defense. Player on defense doesn't play offense. Baseball, you only get 3 or 4 at-bats a game. My point exactly is the NBA is just a different sport, and I was just going on to the point where these first-round picks, that's why you see more people have to give up more to get a superstar player, because they do make that difference.
No, they do. I think on the flip side, as far as draft picks go, I know we were just talking about Brooklyn, like, getting picks, but at the same time, like, you have to hit on those picks the best you can, because, like, I'd rather have, I say this with baseball all the time, with the prospects, because, we live in a city where prospects are valued very much, and, for good reason, I guess. We can argue that a whole other podcast, but my point is, like, I'd rather a proven commodity than someone I don't really know much about, or that has potential, but we haven't really seen it be projected onto the field or the court or the rink, whatever. So that's why I think, on the flip side, I think Brooklyn has to be aware, keep in mind that what you gave up, those were proven commodities, and I know they had their baggage and their issues, and I think in general, like, if you get first round picks, they're first round picks. So Brooklyn, they've shown an ability to draft decently here recently, and I think if they can continue that trend. The part of the thing is we have to see where these picks land, because if this is Phoenix, in Phoenix, I think they're trying to be good for the next, like, 3 to 4 years, so they might be lower end picks, but at the same time, I'm going to argue against myself here. We've seen guys get drafted in the second round that have been superstars later in the first round as well, so it's not all end all be all. I mean, we saw Jokic; he was a second round pick, for gosh sakes. I think he was pick 43, so it's not that you can't find great players later on. It's just you just have to really do your homework and find those gems that turn into superstars. So that's all. That's all I have to say for Brooklyn, though, as far as, like, those draft picks they'll have.
Another thing too is I don't know what it is, but I don't get why people who've played 3 or 4 years just don't get taken earlier sometimes. Like, they're only a couple years older, and I mean, it's case in point. Pascal Siakam played 2 years in college. He wasn't a one and done. He was at a smaller school. That dude's not a 27th pick. Fred VanVleet played all his years. He's not a second round pick. Like, Cameron Johnson was 11th. Listen, if you would have put up those numbers as a one and done, he would have been a top 5 pick. And I'm not saying he's a top 5 pick, of course, but I'm just saying, if you think about that, Kyle Kuzma, that's another one. He's a lottery pick, at least, and he was taken 27th. Isaiah Thomas, when he when he played for Washington. You saw him at Washington. He was a stud at Washington, but he was the last pick taken in the draft. So it's just like Manu Ginobili is another one. But the thing is, my point is, like, I feel like there's just, I don't want to say stigma, but there's just, like, kind of something about teams, like, they're obsessed with the one-and-dones. Sometimes you just need to take a solidified player. And sometimes you hit on your picks when you take a player like Kyle Kuzma. Or you take a player like Pascal Siakam. Or, heck, Ja Morant played 2 years at a small school. He didn't play 1 year. He played 2 years at a small school. So, I mean, I just don't get it. I think one-and-dones, yeah, you could develop them in the NBA. Look at Nick Claxton. I mean, he's gone from, or Anthony Simons too, stuff like that. But, yeah, that's just my point exactly, is that sometimes you could take that solidified player over a one-and-done. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a hot take here. So I've always felt that a lot of guys that go one and done should actually stay 2 or 3 more years of college. Or if you're going to go, I think if you're going to go pro, I think you need to be put in the G League or D League, whatever they call it now, the D League.
G League.
I think it's developmental league now.
It went D. No, it went D to G.
It's G League again.
It's G League, yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, it was D originally. No, it's G League.
I thought it was G. Well, either
way, they
way,
didn't like the name of developmental. They wanted it to be like their own name.
Okay.
And stuff like that.
Well, either way, the league they have that has development, they try to develop players. I feel like those guys should go down there and play maybe a year or two and then get called up, because I just think you're not ready to play. Most guys, unless you're like a Zion or like a LeBron, like you're like generational talent. I really don't think. I think most of these guys fail to realize that, and they're just such in a rush to go pro. You know, you're still a teenager. Like, I think people forget that they're not like adults. I mean, they're adults, but they're teenagers still in a sense. And like, you're just like, you see a lot of these rookies. There's a reason why they struggle. And you know, I understand it's kind of a different league. It's not college where you're playing against guys that are going to be accountants a year from now. You're playing against like bona fide the best of the best in the world. But at the same time, like, I just think you got to hone your skills, get better at your craft, and like, I think this is really across all leagues. You shouldn't be thrown in the fire and expect to produce at a high level. And I think football is really the worst with that, with quarterbacks especially, if they're taking like the top 5 pick. Oh, you're supposed to come in and play like you did in college. Meanwhile, you fail to mention that the conference they were in probably doesn't have as many NFL players. The guys they were throwing to were all 5 stars. And, you know, your coaches are really good. And you have nothing but future NFL players around you. And that's not me taking a shot at anyone in this year's draft or in past drafts. It's just that the talent disparity is just fluctuates depending on your team. And, like, you know, once you get to the pros, it's a bit of a reality check. So I just think NBA players, guys that are trying to go one and done, I think they should kind of maybe either play another year in college or two, or they should be put in the G League and you know, kind of develop there for a little bit before getting called up and actually getting thrown in the fire and expect to be the franchise savior that some of these teams try to like create this narrative about. So that's all I had to say. You might disagree, which is fine, but that's how I feel.
No, I agree. And I do just want to add on to my point. I'm looking at the leaderboards on points per game and stuff like that. Donovan Mitchell played multiple years at Louisville. That's why he dropped to like a borderline lottery pick. And I think it was originally the Nuggets pick that was for the Jazz, and they traded it away. But Damian Lillard played all 4 years at Weber State, and he also got his degree too. So, that's just my point, though. Is just there are players out there. Jalen Brunson's another one. Like, everyone thought, oh, he played all these years, he's not going to be great. I know Devontae Graham isn't having his best year. He played 3 years at Kansas. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where, you know, sometimes if you're that good in college as a senior and stuff like that, like when you come into the league, you're going to be a good player too. Like Kawhi Leonard played 2 years at San Diego State. Therefore, we don't take him. He's not a one and done. So we're going to let him drop to like 15 or whatever. I understand the Spurs had an important part of his development and stuff like that, because the Spurs, they were a machine. Let's get real. But, yeah, that's just my point on it. But I think that being said, I think it's a good time to move on to the next trade. What do you say?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to cover every single trade, but
Not every single one, but
okay. What's the next one you have though?
I do want to talk about the which one? The Russell Westbrook trade.
Oh, okay.
I want to try to see what. Yeah, here it is. So, Lakers get D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt. Timberwolves get Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and 3 second-rounders. And the Jazz get Russell Westbrook, Juan Toscano Anderson, and Damian Jones in a first-round pick. You want me to give my point real quick?
Yeah, you can do it.
Or do you want to go first?
No, I can go. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But here's what I'll just say. I think the Lakers, overall, I think the trade line, I think they're definitely better. I think they'll make the playoffs now, but they're still not a championship team to me because you still have Anthony Davis. He's really the key to all of this. Are we going to see the Anthony Davis earlier this year, or are we going to see the one that's kind of like has a great game maybe every 5 or 6 games and just kind of looks pedestrian? And, he's still good. I mentioned this the other night. There was this whole thing on Twitter about him not being happy that LeBron broke the scoring record. I think that was a bunch of crap too. But he was talking about how he was angry that they didn't get the win or when they weren't winning, whatever. And he had an opportunity to really, follow back on his word Thursday against the Bucks, and he really was kind of pedestrian in that game too. He only had 22 points. So my point is Anthony Davis, if they want to actually do some damage long term, he needs to be the best player. And I've said that before on this podcast. I've said it, talking to you outside of this podcast. He needs to really step it up consistently, not play great for a month here and a month there. And he just has to stay healthy. And I don't know how many times I'll have to say this, but what can go wrong, unfortunately, sometimes does go wrong with Anthony Davis. And I just think if he's not right, I don't see them really going that far. But if he does stay healthy from here on out, I think they can maybe win a round, maybe playing game 2. So, I think they got better. You got under Russ's contract. And let's be real about it. While I think Russ is a future Hall of Famer, he really, even the average NBA fan knew that trade wasn't a good trade because he just didn't fit the Lakers at all. And that turned out to be true. But, they got back D'Angelo Russell, got drafted by the Lakers. You mentioned Malik Beasley, Vanderbilt. I think they got Mo Bamba, another trade too with Orlando. That was the Patrick Beverley one. So they've gotten younger. That is one thing. And if you look at the guys they already had on their roster, they have solid role players. It's not like they're devoid of talent. It's just that they're just not consistent. And the Lakers, they're clearly better than they were last year but it's just they can beat up on the mediocre teams and the trash teams, but the Lakers, they're going to have troubles trying to beat those top tier teams like Phoenix and Brooklyn. Not Brooklyn. I keep thinking of Kyrie and KD. Phoenix, Dallas, Denver. They're going to have trouble beating those teams because those teams are a lot better. But as far as the bottom half of the West, I think they could beat all those teams. I think they could beat Golden State. I think they can even beat Sacramento in a 7-game series. Should it come down to that? So, But overall, I think the Lakers they came out of this trade pretty good. I know I've kind of been talking for a minute here, so I'll just turn it over to you.
I think the Lakers did great, honestly. And you said they have assets already. My boy Austin Reeves crossed Giannis. So
Alex Caruso 2.0.
Hey, Austin Reeves, that's a Big 12 basketball player right there.
Jeez.
But anyways, Lakers, I think they did great, and it's mainly because I like Russell Westbrook. I'm excited to see where he goes next. I hope he could be a second or third option. But his contract's $44 million. They've opened up so much room. Getting rid of Patrick Beverley, too. His contract's $13 million. You got rid of your 2 biggest contracts. Now that probably opens you up if you want to get D'Angelo Russell back next year. So you have D'Angelo Russell. You get Malik Beasley. You get Jared Vanderbilt. Jared Vanderbilt is a gritty player, tough player. I like that pickup a lot. Good guy to take off the bench right there. Plus, you already have Rui Hachimura and stuff like that. And, they got rid of Thomas Bryant in the process and replaced him for Mo Bamba, which I guess for a contract thing, getting rid of Beverly was okay. But that was just a weird move to get rid of Bryant, too. But I see why they did it and stuff like that. But you get Malik Beasley, too, on top of D'Angelo Russell. So D'Angelo Russell's a walking bucket. And I think everyone knows that he could score whenever he wants, practically. That really helps this team. And you get Malik Beasley, too, out of it, who, yes, their shooting's better than it was last year, I'd say, especially with how Lonnie Walker's been shooting and stuff like that, and Austin Reeves as well. But adding Malik Beasley gives them another threat from three, and on top of that, you still have LeBron and AD. And, yeah, you're right. Anthony Davis, he's the key to all of this, because even though that's a great trade, I think they're better off now than they were. I think that, Russell's going to fit this system better than Russell Westbrook. AD is still the thing that holds us together, because without him, you could argue that he could have won Finals MVP in 2020. Honestly, he's just as valuable as LeBron is to this team. And if they don't have him, he needs to be healthy. That's it. Because if he's not healthy, this team isn't beating the Kings in a series or whatever. But if they are healthy, like you said, they could beat the Kings. Yeah. So it's just like they need to have AD if they want to have somewhat of a shot. And even LeBron, they need to make sure. I know like he's been a pretty durable player his whole career, but he's not exactly a youngling. So, yeah, just they need to stay healthy. That's the key. AD especially.
Yeah, here's what I'll say about LeBron. I know people keep saying he's had a great year. I agree with that, but I also disagree with that from this point. His impact it's not as I don't know what the word to use is, but it's not as apparent as it has been in past years. Like, if you take him off this team, yeah, they're not as good, but I don't think they're as drastically bad as people are trying to make it out to be. Because here's the thing. He's not really good defensively anymore, and while he does provide scoring, that definitely helps. If you look at his advanced stats, they're just not there. And if you put prime Miami LeBron, heck, if you put Cleveland LeBron on this team, they probably have 10 more wins at least. So, LeBron, well, listen, 38 years old, I understand he's like old. I understand that. And considering the circumstances, he's had a great year. I'm not taking that away from him, but at the same time, like, his impact, it's just not as big as it once was, and that's he has declined in some regards, and that's one of the aspects he's declined in. You can't really carry a team, drag a team throughout the playoffs and into the final. That's just not going to work this year. It's really never going to work ever. And if they think that Anthony Davis gets hurt, that's just going to magically happen again, you're setting yourself up for disappointment if you believe that. So I think this is why I said Anthony Davis needs to be that guy, because if he's that guy, like we saw in 2020 when they won the championship, they could definitely win a round. I do think that. So
yeah, I do want to talk about, like, you mentioned LeBron though, like how he was when he was on the Heat and Cavs. I wish we would have saw 12-13 LeBron playing how today's NBA is. I feel like he was dominant then, but I just feel like his points would have been like slightly more inflated, because that was before the game really turned into a three and shoot kind of thing. So I think that would have been really interesting to see LeBron from 2013, or even like a player like Carmelo Anthony in his prime. Like, I feel like those two players would have flourished even into like today's NBA. I'm just saying, like, thinking of, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. you think of scenarios like that.
Yeah, no, LeBron he probably could play in any era, if we're gonna be real about it. Like, his game, like, it fits any era. And here's what I'll say. One more thing about LeBron. I know you probably want to move on, but like, this whole, like, we gotta stop with like the whole narratives about him not being clutch, because that's about the biggest load of what I've ever heard. I don't need to even go into that. You know who the people are that always push these narratives. I'm not going to go into that either. It's all over social media, so if you want to look at it. But here's what I'll say. He's one of the most clutch players of all time. I think he has the most game-winning shots of all time. He literally made the block in the finals to literally save the Cavs season and win the championship. Well, I know that he didn't hit the shot, but my point is, if Iguodala makes that dunk or whatever, who knows how that game turns out. And he literally hits blocks the shot, keeps the game tied, allows for Kyrie to hit that game-winning three. I mean, the buzzer beater against Orlando.
Buzzer beater against Chicago. The
Raptors.
Yeah.
The off-the-glass one-handed shot. I mean,
people were saying that was the year the Raptors would have had a chance before they got
swept.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, he's been clutch. And listen, being clutch doesn't always also mean you have to take the last shot with 5 seconds left in the fourth quarter. There's different elements of being clutch. And I just told you the block against the Warriors, that's one element of being clutch. Like, being clutch, like, you can get a key rebound here or there, make the right pass. Like, that's what LeBron does. And, people trying to tear him down and, oh, he's not better than Jordan. Well, that's not the question. If you think he's better than Jordan, that's fine. I'm not going to disagree with you. He has the resume, in my opinion. But at the same time, like, if you believe Jordan's better, I'm not going to disagree with you. I just hate. Like, it's just turned into like who's better, this guy or this guy? It's such an annoying discourse. It's so old. Like, we've been debating the MJ versus LeBron for the past 10 years. Listen, people have already made up their minds. They're not going to change their minds over a video or a new stat here and there. Like, it's just I've said this on the podcast before, and I'll say it again. Like, we just got to stop comparing players because, first of all, they don't even play the same position, and then second of all, like, these are all great, all-time great players. Like, let's just appreciate them rather than spend 5 hours on Twitter talking about, with this guy, he didn't blow a 2-1 lead to Dallas, or he didn't melt down in the fourth quarter. Like, it's just so ridiculous. Let's just stop, man. Like, just stop and just, like, take the time and understand that LeBron is the freaking all-time leading scorer, which is insane to even mention, and the fact that he probably has 2 more years at least to play. So most likely this record probably won't be broken really ever again if you think about it. So,
yeah, and to talk about that, he won the scoring title. Congrats to LeBron. I do want to say that it took him a long time, but he did it, and that just goes to show his longevity and stuff like that. But I do want to talk about that LeBron game winner against Orlando. That doesn't happen if Vucevic is there.
Anyway,
it's an inside joke. It's an inside joke. But yeah, anyways, I do want to talk about the 3-team deal between the Hawks, Pistons, and Warriors. Just Wiseman going to the Pistons and the Hawks getting Sadiq Bey. This is still pending.
Yeah. Just to throw that in there, I was on Twitter and I saw that trade might. I'm not sure if it's involving every team, but the one with the Warriors getting Gary Payton, that might get canceled because there's health concerns with him. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that would affect every team, but if that did, that would really suck.
It could have a ripple effect, though. That's the thing. But I do, because I think a team can decline after not getting that certain player. But I do want to say, James Wiseman going to the Pistons, I think that's a really good move for Detroit. If that ends up happening, I know this isn't exactly the sexy trade, I guess you could say, but I mean James Wiseman is still what was he, second pick?
I think second overall, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good player. Seriously, he was good he's good when he's healthy. He could shoot too as a center. I mean, he fits the style of play. Young player, and you're putting him on early 20s on a young team with Cade Cunningham when he's healthy again, Jaden Ivey, and I'm gonna say it, Marvin Bagley. I mean, I'm still not done with Marvin Bagley. I still think that if we could get a healthy Marvin Bagley, him and James Wiseman in the front court, it's gonna be a pretty nasty front court. I know that people might say, "Oh, me saying I haven't lost hope for Marvin Bagley's a hot take," but I mean, when he's healthy. Let's get real. He's still a good player. So I think that the Pistons have a really good young core. Obviously, they're not that good right now, and they're probably not going to be good next year either. But give them 2 or 3 years. I think that this team could eventually be good. I mean, Jalen Durant, too, he's looked incredible lately. So, yeah, I just think overall that this Pistons team is making the right moves to compete in the next 4 or 5 years. Yeah, honestly.
Here's the thing. So I think Detroit should take him up, but they have too many big men. They need to get rid of some of their big men because if you're trying to have them play and get minutes, there's a lot of guys there. So I'm kind of at the same time I'm kind of confused at what Detroit's doing from that perspective. But at the same time, Wiseman does have some serious upside, and I think you have to play him. You don't make that trade if you don't play him. So. We saw with Golden State, he really didn't get any minutes because they kind of have their players playing it at this point. And just looking back, I hate to do this with the Warriors, but they could have got LaMelo Ball, and I think LaMelo Ball would have fit their team better considering what they were doing. I mean, he would be their point guard, wouldn't have to score a lot of points, just facilitate the offense, and you can have kind of stretch out Draymond Green a bit, have Clay and Steph be shooters, not having to carry the ball up and down the court. Like they could have done that team would have been lethal. Maybe had a Kevon Looney be the starting center, and maybe instead of Wiseman or whatever. Like that team, they still could have won a championship in my opinion. And I think that was a missed opportunity. I know Anthony Edwards went number 1 overall, but even the guys after, no disrespect to James Wiseman, I think he'll carve out a nice career. But it's just the Warriors, they were in that. They were really lucky. They were in a position to draft a really impactful player right away, and not that I don't think they missed the boat necessarily, because you have to understand that Wiseman had injuries, so that really kind of took away 2 years really of him to develop as a player. So I don't want to not mention that, but I'm just trying to think LaMelo Ball and the Warriors, man, that would be really something to watch, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, like we said earlier, though, you never know. And, Wiseman, if he would have developed, I mean, he averaged 12 points his first year. Looked good his first year. Then he misses the whole season. But, LaMelo Ball, too, I don't even think they considered drafting him, because you have Curry and Thompson in the backcourt, and they were just assuming that, hey, we have these guys for the next couple of years. And, so even though, that would have been a good pick looking back on it, it's just one of those things where, that would have been cool to see, but at the same time, they probably didn't even think about doing it because they already had Curry and stuff.
Yeah, no, I could see why they wouldn't do that, but at the same time, Curry, he can be a shooting guard. Klay Thompson can be a forward. I mean, you don't have to. You have guys that are versatile, so you don't have to have them be point guards.
And plus, Ball is a taller point guard, too.
Yeah, and Draymond Green can be, he's pretty much a combination of a bunch of different things position-wise, though, but I mean, I just think LaMelo Ball, it's what's the term they use? It's something about second guessing. Is it second guessing?
It might be, yeah.
But I know I'm kind of second guessing now. It's obvious that LaMelo Ball. Double take, yeah. Whatever it is,
double Dutch bus.
Yeah, but no, I mean LaMelo Ball. He's gonna be maybe not a superstar, but he's gonna be an all-star at the very worst in his NBA career. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they still do get him if he's unhappy in Charlotte, considering they've pretty much tanked this year. So I mean, I don't know if you have any other trades you want to go over.
Grizzlies get Luke Kennard, a good extra shooter to have. Nothing too much there. I think the Grizzlies could have made another move, but that's a whole other story. I thought the Clippers made some good moves.
I was going to mention they got Eric Gordon back.
And Bones Highland, too. Yeah. They got Eric Gordon and Bones Highland. And, Eric Gordon, I think that's a good pickup. Honestly.
No, that is. He can still give you 20 points a game. So I'm glad he finally got out of Houston. Speaking of that, I do want to say one more thing. I really do feel bad for John Wall, because he was on the Clippers, and he came from Houston. And if you've watched, probably, I'm sure you've seen clips on social media about his time at Houston, really didn't enjoy it at all. And the fact that they traded him back to Houston, I think that was kind of a bit messed up. I understand there's trying to get rid of cap space and all that, but I mean, I don't know why you couldn't have waived him or maybe traded him somewhere else. Going back to the Houston, that just really seems like a big middle finger to you. That's just my opinion.
It's the whole Isaiah Thomas thing where or Andre Drummond, where they were sitting him out, meanwhile he wanted to play, or John Wall, where you just mentioned that, or Isaiah Thomas, where Danny Ainge practically promised him a max contract and then trades him for Kyrie Irving. Hey.
No, he was in line to get that. He had that. He was averaging 30 points that year, and then he had a hip injury.
Yeah,
and then he didn't get paid.
Well, it's not, and then his personal life was a freaking mess too.
I forgot about that too. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. This is why I told you. This is why I'm a player first guy. I understand why they operate the way they do. I don't blame them, because I know owners and front office, they can do some pretty cheap stuff and do some low blows. And once again, the John Wall trade's just another example of why player empowerment is a thing in the NBA. So,
yeah, but I do want to do a nice little segment. It's called a Happy Homecoming. There's some players that have recently come home. And Eric Gordon,
coming home. Tell the world
home.
I'm coming home.
Tell the world that I'm coming home. So first and foremost, Eric Gordon is going back to the Clips. Jakob Poeltl. He was in the DeRozan trade. He was coming along with DeRozan to San Antonio. He's flying back up to Canada.
We the North.
He's going back. That's a good pickup to me. But
we the North.
Most importantly, our blonde boy himself, George Hill.
Georgie.
He's going back to Indiana.
He's coming home. He's coming home.
Yeah, so Indiana gets George Hill, Serge Ibaka, Jordan Nwora, and 3 second-round picks.
Ibaka.
Dude, I mean, like, I thought
they're going to buy out Serge, though. He's not going to be on the Pacers, so he'll probably go to another contender.
Yeah, he probably will, but I think the Bucks did good getting Jay Crowder. That's a good extra piece to have. They needed another small forward / power forward, so especially with Portis hurt and Chris Middleton not having the year he wanted. So, yeah, getting Jay Crowder, I think that helps the Bucks out. As long as you have Giannis, you have a chance to win it.
Giannis. So. As long as you have Giannis, you got a chance.
Giannis and biggest trade, Mike Muscala going to the Celtics. Justin Jackson, 2 second-round picks. I guess we could talk about, I mean...
about to say, we have like 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
8 minutes left.
I do want to say Cam Reddish going to Portland. Josh Hart going to the Knicks. I honestly like it for both sides. Josh Hart's given. That's a good pickup for the Knicks. I mean, they're still in the playoff hunt. They're 7th right now. Josh Hart's a good shooter. Good addition right there. Cam Reddish going to Portland. I like it, honestly. I mean, you got a solid backcourt there going right now. You can put Cam Reddish at small forward, still a young player. I mean, I've seen shades of Reddish. He's actually not that bad. He's just been a lower option. I think that he's going to get some more reps in Portland. I like the trade. I'm not counting out Cam Reddish. He's same age as Zion. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would talk longer, but we only have like 8 minutes left in this room that we're in. So I'm just going to, say that you're very, I don't know what I was going to say, but you're very good at this whole podcasting thing.
You're very good at this whole podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it.
I got the voice. You don't like me.
I got the voice. I got the voice. They call me Big Cat. They call me
Big Cat.
Stuku.
Bobby Gravy.
Bobby Gravy.
Oh, was he supposed to say that? No.
Oh no. No. Okay, but seriously though, I know we were supposed to do NFL awards, but I'll just say like Mahomes won MVP. That's really all you need to know about.
Nick
honestly,
Bosa won defensive
player of the year too. Like those are the big awards. Brian Dable won Coach of the Year. Congrats to all those guys. I'm sure we'll talk about it in a future podcast, though. But, real quick, I think I'm taking the Chiefs tomorrow in the Super Bowl. Who are you taking?
Eagles.
Eagles, fair enough. I think it'll be a close game, 50-50.
Can't count out Mahomes, though.
That's why I'm taking the Chiefs, man. Got the best player on the field, in my opinion. But, that was our podcast for this week. Thank you, as always, for listening to our podcast. If you want to find it, you can go Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search the Rossetti and Stewart Podcast. For Antonio Rossetti, I'm Justin Stewart. We'll do it again soon, folks. Have a great rest of your day.